Hi, I'm Mike with Mike'sTravelGuide.com and welcome to our video blog. We get a lot of comments on our website and Facebook page from people that are truly interested in coming to Europe, but because of financial issues or because of not knowing how to plan a trip to Europe, they've all but given up on that possibility of making that first trip to Europe. So by reading these comments, we decided to come up with a video blog to help these first-time visitors to Europe. In this series, we'll provide you with all the information you need to make that first-time trip to Europe. We provide you with a list of recommended destinations. We also provide information on how to get to these destinations and how to get around in these destinations. We provide you with a list of what to see and what to do. We also provide you with places to eat and where to stay. So by watching this video series, that first-time visitor will have the confidence and the ability to very easily plan that first trip to Europe. Of course, the itinerary completely depends on the time you have available. If you have 5 days, then we'd recommend only doing Paris. Paris is a fantastic city to see. It's the must-see city in all of Europe. And with 5 days, you won't get bored. You'll have plenty of things to see and do in Paris. And you don't have to worry about transportation. So you could just spend that 5 days in Paris. You'll really enjoy it. Now, if you have 7 days, what we'd recommend is spending 3 days in Amsterdam and then 4 days in Paris. If this is your first trip to Europe, this would make an excellent trip because one, it's two really nice cities to visit, and the transportation between these two cities is super easy and convenient. So that, for the first-time visitor, would be an excellent vacation. Now, if you have a little bit more time, let's say you have 8 days, we'd recommend spending 1 night in Antwerp. Antwerp is super convenient to get to because it's between Amsterdam and Paris. So you literally just take the train from Amsterdam to Antwerp, spend 1 night in Antwerp, and the next day you hop on the train and go to Paris. Now if you have 9 days, we'd recommend going to Delft. Delft is a city in the Netherlands. It's smaller than Amsterdam, and it's a different flavor, so it's also a nice city worth visiting. If you're a little bit more adventurous, there are 2 cities we'd want to mention. That's Bruges and Ghent. Bruges and Ghent are really nice to see. The only thing is they're a little bit harder to get to. So it's going to take more time and more involvement to get to Bruges and Ghent. But they are really nice cities to visit. If you're a little bit cautious and you're saying, hey, this is our first trip, then we'd recommend just sticking with our original itinerary. And that would be, of course, flying into Amsterdam, spending 3 nights there, catching the train, going to Delft, spend 1 night in Delft, catching the train from Delft to Antwerp, spend 1 night in Antwerp, and then, of course, catching the train from Antwerp to Paris and spending 4 nights there and flying out of Paris. Now, one of the things we want to do, obviously, is to make this trip as easy and convenient as possible for you, especially if this is your first trip to Europe. And one of the biggest recommendations we can make is to flying into Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. This is a super easy airport to fly into. One, almost everyone in the airport will speak English, so you'll have an easy way of getting around. 2, the rail station is super close by to where you exit the terminal or you go through customs. So it's only maybe about a 2 or 3 minute walk. Also, the train getting from Schiphol Airport to the middle of Amsterdam is super easy and convenient and fairly cheap. So remember, if you're flying in, you'll have spent the whole night on the plane. You're going to be tired, you're going to be somewhat aggravated, and you don't want to spend a whole lot of energy and effort to figure out how to get from the airport to your hotel. And Amsterdam Schiphol Airport is super convenient for this. If you can, obviously fly into Schiphol, you want to be able to fly out of Paris, if that's possible. If that's too expensive, then just fly in and out of Schiphol. Now remember, you can buy a rail ticket from Paris to get back to Amsterdam for about 35 euros a piece if you buy 2 months in advance. So that probably is a lot cheaper than, let's say, splitting the fare and flying into one city versus flying out the other city. And remember, we want to try to make this easy and convenient, but also a way for you to save money. We're always looking at ways to save you money and make your trip more convenient. So one of the things we can do is recommend when to come to Europe. One of the things we do recommend is don't come to Europe in the summer. Things are really, that's the worst time you can come to Europe. Things are much more expensive, the lines are longer, and a lot of places don't have AC, so it's going to be really inconvenient for you to make that trip, especially the first time trip to Europe, during the middle of the summer. What we do recommend is visiting Europe in the spring or fall. For example, April and October are excellent months to visit Europe. Another note or thing to consider is possibly the winter, especially if you're strapped for cash. Making a winter visit to Europe, let's say in February, could work out for you. We just booked a flight from the US to Europe, round trip, in February for $672. That's really hard to beat. So if you're strapped for cash, maybe that winter trip may be worth seeing. But be cautious because the weather may not be in your favor. Bottom line, planning that trip to Europe, April and October usually are the best months to see Europe. Recapping this episode, we talked about what cities we recommend for your first time visit to Europe. The other thing we talked about is what cities and airports to fly in and out of. And we also talked about when you should make that trip to Europe. Well, thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, please feel free to visit us at www.mikestravelguide.com. And don't forget to come back here and watch our next video.